sul palma florevit, Sicut cedrus Libani. Multiplicabitur in domo Domini ad annunciandum misericordiam tuam et veritatem tuam Justus ut fama florevit, Sicut cedrus Libani. Multiplicabitur in Domino Domini The word of God is something alive and active. It conjures secret emotions and thoughts. The Lord be with you.
And with your
A
spirit.
reading from the Holy Gospel according to Matthew.
Glory to you, O Lord.
Jesus put before the crowds a parable, saying, The kingdom of heaven may be compared to a man who sowed good seed in his field. But while men were sleeping, his enemy came and sowed weeds among the wheat and went away. So when the plants came up and bore grain, then the weeds appeared also. And the servants of the householder came and said to him, Sir, did you not sow good seed in your field? How then has it weeds? He said to them, An enemy has done this. The servant said to him, Then do you want us to go and gather them? But he said, No, lest in gathering the weeds you root up the wheat along with them. Let both grow together until the harvest, and at harvest time I will tell the reapers, gather the weeds first and bind them in bundles to be burned, but gather the wheat into my barn. The Gospel of the Lord.
Praise to you, Lord Jesus Christ.
In this world, we all grow together in the field of the Lord, and we are side by side with people of all kinds. But there are on this planet some plants that are quite exceptional. They may go unnoticed, whereas others will gain much attention. But when it comes to the great harvest, their eternity will be far less interesting. Each century has its crop. The 1800s was very rich in beautiful flowers. Very close to the time the little flower, Thérèse of Lisieux, was petering out and being planted in heaven itself, another hidden saint also was zooming into the highest glory. The saint of this day, he was Sicut, but he became Sharbel, taking the name of a 2nd century martyr. The young boy was born into a very pious home, but the father died early in life, and the good young mother wanted support for the children and a father figure, and she married again a very pious man who had always had a desire for the priesthood. And it came about that it actually happened, for they were of the Maronite rite in Lebanon, and a married man can become a priest there. And so the young Sicut was able to take in all that was happening at the altar, as he himself helped his father, his stepfather in this case. He was also influenced by 2 uncles on his mother's side, who were Maronite monks. He was the mainstay of the family because he worked well. There was also a girl in the village who wanted to marry him. He foresaw that the only way to efficaciously get away from all this situation and be free was actually to escape, and so he did, before dawn one day, walking for miles and miles to the monastery he knew about. And they took him in, and he took very seriously the vocation of a monk. Eventually, when he was already in enclosure, his mother caught up with him and wanted him to come out, but when she saw how serious he was, she didn't insist. She was not able to see him because he was speaking to her through the grill, and he said, "We will see each other again in heaven." And she calmly handed over her son to the Eternal Father with this instruction to him: "If you are going to be a poor monk, come back with me. If you want to become a saint, stay." So she was very supernatural in her vision, and he became a saint. Eventually he was sent to a bigger monastery to do his studies, and he was ordained to the sacred priesthood. That did mean a certain amount of ministry because they had the pastoral care of the area. But he did so in a spiritual way. He would discreetly avoid contact more than he had to and get to the point. One way was to do things at night, and actually he got lost trying to find his way back to the monastery and spent that night without any sleep at all, for he got back just in time for vigils. He always took the meanest task, and he hid himself and eclipsed himself. Miracles would already happen. The little girl was healed, and immediately cried out to Holy Father Sharbel, and the saint immediately deflected all attention and wanted the child to praise God. Himself, before he entered, obtained power and grace through the intercession of our Blessed Lady, to whom he had a precocious devotion. He would retire and hide himself in a little grotto where there was a statue of her, which wasn't easy to find in an Islamic situation, but she helped him do what had to be done. Eventually, after some 13 years with the community, he obtained permission to become a hermit, for they had a hermitage on the top of a mountain, and he spent 23 years there in the freezing cold, spending hours kneeling like an iceberg for the Blessed Sacrament, his only consolation. He would celebrate every day at 11 o'clock in the morning and spend about 3 hours in the celebration. And it was during one of these that he had to stop celebrating at a certain point, for he was collapsing. He tried again later in the day, but eventually it was the beginning of the end, and he was put to rest near the place where he had prayed. He appeared afterwards on a photograph when pilgrims came to honour the place, and he appeared after his death on the negative as an extra pilgrim, but it was his face in the habit. And when they're already in the ground, for they buried them without any protection against the earth, as they would do actually in the Trappist order and the Carthusian order, lights began to indicate things. Lights indicated that that place was special, and the person there under was very special. Eventually they found that his body was incorrupt, and that incorrupt state carried on until 1965, and at the very conclusion of the Second Vatican Council, St. Paul VI beatified him as a providential sign for our times. The Council that wanted so much to restore unity could see in this a sign for our own times, someone of the Eastern Rite who was under Rome and was a model of union in God, for all would come and find healing in him, even Muslims. But he always tried to be hidden, and when some of the brethren wanted now and again to see him from the monastery, his tactic was to take a life of the saint, any saint, and point to a paragraph to be read, and listen himself to the guest reading it. He might add a blessing of his own, but that was sufficient. He did not want to engage in useless conversation. He went to the essential, and all his energies were channeled, a model for monks until the end of time. The essential and the correct channeling. For monks in our days can be damaged by too many contacts with the world through many modern channels of communication, and one has to be radical about this. Otherwise one is playing hide and seek, going away from the world and getting the world to come after us. The monastic life functions if it is lived, and if the game is played well according to the rules, then the fruits will follow. It is difficult to mix the world with the cell, and unfortunately the monastic cell has become an agora if one isn't careful of communication with the outside world. It doesn't have to be. Life is different when the phone is perpetually off except once a day, when there is no contact with internet, and when people only come at certain times and by appointment. It can be handled, but it has to be taken by the horns. I conclude, this saint has much to say for our time. Humility, hiddenness, genuine accompanying of Jesus, energy given to what lasts forever. How many days are spent in hot air? Even the pious are gaseous. the geezer of the internet, spouting words, handling holy issues, but expending energy there where it doesn't do an awful lot of good for the soul. This day will come only once. To ask Sharbel for the grace through his intercession and the intercession of Blessed Lady, to whom we are so devoted, to spend our time there where it can be useful, for each second wasted is irretrievable for all eternity.
Salve Regina, Mater misericordiae, vita dulcedo, et spes nostra salve. A te clamamus, exsurrex filii Eve, a te suspiramus, gementes et flentes, in ac lacrimarum vale, et ia ergo advocata nostra, illos tuos misericordes oculos a nos converte, et Iesu benedictum fructum ventris tui, nobis post hoc exilium ostende. O clemens, o pia, o dulcis